Well, hello folks, and welcome to episode 228 of Retropower and Cut. And you join me in the fabrication shop as always, and we're here with our latest entry into the workshop, an E46 BMW M3. And why is that here, pray, I hear you ask? Well, this has just been bought by our customer, well, in conjunction with my brother coordinating the buying at auction, as a donor for the BMW E9 project, which you'll probably recall from previous weeks. We mentioned that that was going to be receiving an E46 M3 engine and transmission, and probably front suspension, though we need to do some more measuring and some more maths and some drawing before we get into that. However, we need a donor, and looking at the price of engines and transmissions and other bits that we will likely need versus the price of a complete car, it actually makes more sense to get a complete car. There's a little bit of money that can be recovered from parts on the car, and there are various parts that we may need to use from the car. So it makes more sense to buy the full vehicle, hence here it is, we have a full vehicle. 140 something thousand mile, generally good condition, been fiddled with, got a bit of crash damage on the front corner but very, very light. Typical sort of insurance, light insurance write-off basically. No major structural damage, just a straightforward M3, bought through Copart. Here it is, and this will be yielding various parts towards the E9 project. So hopefully, I imagine on next week's episode you'll see this starting to come apart. We've got to do a list of the parts we need. We need to get this up on the lift and have a measure up of various things on it, and to check the feasibility of using various things. And then once we've got that list and we've got the measurements and we've decided exactly the route forward, which we've got to finalise, then this can come apart and the parts can be stored. And up to that end will be more news in coming weeks, because we are moving our parts storing and inventory system forward a notch as well. So you'll be able to catch up on that, because this project is going to be the first one to be seeing our new parts organisation system in action. So we'll see how that goes. There'll be a learning curve, I'm quite sure. But that's where we are. E46 M3 engine donor arrived, so that we'll stop there talking about that. We'll move on to the rest of the E9 in a moment. The E-Type V12, from a metal and physical work point of view, is parked at the moment because we are dwelling on some design work, so that'll be picked up when we go next door to catch up in the assembly shop in the CAD layer. Because that's the work is centred in two places, as it was last week, between the CAD layer and KS Composites. The brain keeps fading here. KS Composites at Melton. There is work going on at KS and there is work going on in the CAD layer, so that's what's going on there. Right, we have no Bobby this week. Bobby is on holiday. He's over in Bulgaria, so no Bobby. So Wasabi this week is parked. We're going to hold off that. We're going to leave that to Bobby when he's back, not next week, but the week after. I think he's pretty much in place to get the Saab upper body attached to the Audi. But that's parked just for the moment, and we'll pick that. Service will resume on that in a week and a bit. So that's where we're at on that. Just before going away, Bobby was doing some more work on this, just waging some further fittings and just perfecting the tooling. And he's got a couple of tweaks he wanted to make to one of the tools to enable us to put bends slightly near the end of a pipe, and also there was a slight burr on one of the tooling sets, I can't remember which, so he added a slight radius into one of the dies, but basically that's all up and running. So again, as soon as he's back, we can make up the lines for the Allegros, do the actual end fittings for the lines on the Allegros. So that's that. In fact, I can't remember whether he's already done one of them, but that's certainly that's the situation with that device. Moving on from that, we come over to Stu. Stu's working on live on camera here. Lots of progress on E9, as you can see. This is probably the major stuff going on this week. In fact, I wonder whether we might have a walk around the back of the car. Let's walk round to the back of the car. A, Stu will feel less nervous not being literally live on camera while we're working, and B, he's been beavering away at the back. So let's have a little look here, because this is something we don't see very much of. I'll explain and then explain. As you know from last week's video, the E9 was very poorly, very rusty. The caveat here is it looks extremely poorly, but you have to bear in mind that we haven't actually tackled a particularly corroded car restoration in a while. But we have tackled worse than this. I think I've mentioned this before, but if you go back and look at the Mustang project, or Project Rustang as we called it, the Mustang Coupe that we rebuilt was in far worse condition than this. Outwardly didn't look so bad, but we ended up with only probably 3 or 4 original pressings in the entire body shell on that, just to put things in perspective. So keep in mind, this is certainly by no means the rustiest car we have ever worked on. It is poorly, but most E9s are, once you get under the skin and get them blasted and get them cleaned up. Most of them are pretty bad. And I've certainly seen a lot worse than this being restored. So you have to kind of temper it with the reality of what these cars are like. Stu's been busy though. In a nutshell, he's taken the front end off because the entire front panel structure is poorly and going to be replaced. So those panels are on order and will be coming from Germany. And the entire rear end is removed because all of that was poorly and all of that is coming from Germany. The trickiest part there, as I mentioned last week, I think, is the quarter panels. We can't get complete quarter panels. So if anybody watching this knows of any complete E9 rear quarter panels anywhere for sale, new ones, then let me know, because that would be very useful. I know they have been remade. Equally, I don't think there are any in stock anywhere. They're sold out, and I don't think the company that remade them have any plans to press any more at the moment. So if anybody knows of any, let us know. If not, we'll repair these, but it would probably be cheaper overall to use new pressings if we could get them. However, we can get a very large wheel arch repair section, which takes the quarter panel up to the swage line, and we can get a lower rear corner and a lower front corner repair section, which avoids having to make the complicated shape parts. And then we can wheel up the remaining sections and then build the panel from sections. So it's not the end of the world, but it would be quicker and simpler if we could do it from a single panel. So that is what it is. But yeah, Stu's getting all the damaged areas stripped off, getting back to the inner structure that we are going to keep, and then hopefully maybe tomorrow we might have the panels arrived. It might be next week. We're in the realms of international shipping from Germany, so we'll see how that falls. But hopefully next couple of days we should have the panels arrive. So then we move on to what Stu can get on with on the shell, and that's why this lot is here on the back of the car, because we've been looking at doing the repairs to the boot floor. Now this car had a rear end shunt which had damaged the back panel of the car and damaged the spare wheel well and the fuel tank surround area, but it had also shunted all of that structure into the rear diff mounting. Now all of that structure on these cars is incredibly fragile. There is almost no structure to it. There's certainly no hollow reinforcing sections. It's just an empty tin can, effectively, the back of the car. Probably worryingly, the most structural part is the fuel tank, which sort of sits down here, and that had actually taken the brunt of the rear end shunt. And when that fuel tank shunted forward, it actually shunted into the back of the diff mount, and it had pushed the diff mount forward into the rear seat area, and we hadn't appreciated how much it had done that until we did a couple of measurements of that area, and we actually realised that while the major structural suspension mounting points on the car are all in alignment, the rear diff mount was not. So the rear subframe must have been sitting back end down slightly and sort of shunted forwards and up a little bit. The front mountings haven't moved, but as I say, the rear, this section here, which I will be able to show you there, look, that's how bendy that is, just sat there, and there's basically a small sheet metal return there, and then a spare wheel well and a hole where the fuel tank goes. There's no structure to it at all, so it's a worryingly weak area to hang. Bear in mind that mounting that sits in there carries the whole rear half of the weight of the rear subframe. That's the main mounting for the rear subframe via the differential rear cover. So it's a surprisingly fragile and flimsy way of doing it. So we were going to beef all this area up. We were going to add some further structure across there, add basically a box section structure onto some spreader plates on the inner rear wheel arches. However, we want to get this in the right place, and that needed a pull down and back. So Stu's gone back to his crash repair roots, and we've dug the dozer out, which is not something we get out very often. That kind of lives in our compressor room, and it's a select dozer designed to work with these jigs. As you can see, it's clamped. It comes with these white sections here, these clever crevices have sets of clamps on them, which are clamped via wedges, which are hammered in. You probably just about be able to see a wedge down there. They clamp via wedges onto the flanges of the jig. This is what these select jigs are actually built for. This lower flange of the universal beam that the jig's made of, the clamps clamp onto the lower flange of the universal beam, and that can be clamped in any position around the jig. And then there's a hinge here with a pin, which enables you to align this end of the jig here. And then the dozer beat, the upward pulling tower on it, has also got a pin there, so that can be aligned that way. And then basically you get all your alignment to exactly the angle you want to pull at, which Stu's done, and Stu's very experienced at this. I mean, Stu's wonderful to work with on this sort of job. I've done this a few times as Stu's lackey, basically helping him. And he's done it so much, his eye for, oh yeah, I need to just pull it from that angle. He just kind of works it out and does it, and it's done. It's really, really good. So Stu's worked all that out, got the alignment all done, put the chains on, and then you basically clamp using this bolt-up clamp onto the piece of car you want to pull, clamp to it, and then we've got an air-operated hydraulic pump kicking around somewhere. It's been moved now, but there's an air-operated hydraulic pump with a quick cupper on this ram here. Pump that ram, that pulls the chain, pulls the car into alignment. This cable on here is a safety cable, so if the clamp comes off, the whole lot with quite, because you'll get quite a lot of spring in all of these parts as it's pulling the car, everything kind of winds up and you get a bit of deflection and spring in everything. That just catches it. If the clamp comes off, cable catches it and stops things flying, the chain flying across the workshop and hitting people in the head and things like that. So that's what this cable's for. That's just a safety cable to prevent accidents if the clamp comes off. But Stu's now got that all pulled back, pulled all the floor back down. As I say, it's not actually that bad. It's just so weak to start with that it had all deflected, but it was very easy to pull back. So Stu's got that all pulled back. And now at this point, we've got a couple of design decisions to make in terms of what we're doing with the rear end. Certainly we're very much leaning towards using an updated version of what was originally on the back of the E9. Since it works very well, we're leaning towards using probably the E46 front suspension and steering, because we want to upgrade to steering rack, and probably the later development of the E28 5 Series rear end, which is, give or take, a bolt-in fit in one of these, but it also uses the later differentials, so we've got a nice choice of differentials that we can fit, and it uses what is basically, give or take, the E30 style rear suspension, which is very well developed. And as I was pointing out to Carl yesterday, the combination of parts we would end up with is basically, again, give or take in BMW terminology, the same as was fitted to the Z3M Coupe, which is widely regarded and widely praised as one of the very nice handling rear-wheel drive cars of its era. And that basically used the E46 M3 engine and transmission with a later development of the E30 rear end. It's very similar to the E36 Compact, an E46 Compact rear end, which is basically a very slightly reinforced and beefed up version of an E30 rear end, which in turn is broadly similar. Various changes to rotating parts like the hubs and bearings and things, but the fundamental design is broadly similar to the E28 M5 type rear end, E28 rear end, all very similar with detail differences. So that's what we're going to end up with. So basically the underpinnings and engine and transmission would all be pretty much as per Z3M Coupe. And in terms of weight, I think we're going to end up broadly the same as the original weight of an E9, and the original weight of an E9 is within a few kilos the same weight as a Z3M Coupe. So it's quite an interesting comparison in that we should have something that's broadly in the same vein as that car, but looks like an E9. So that would be a happy place if we end up there, and that's kind of the plan. There's an alternative plan, which is potentially to use the E46 rear suspension. However, we need to do some more measuring. This is a conversation that's going on between us and the customer for this car, where we need to do some more checking. But structurally, the rear of the E9 doesn't, outwardly, at the moment anyway, lend itself really to mounting the E46 rear subframe. The rear subframe on that puts structural loads into areas where there just isn't structure on an E9. So we need to do a bit more. We need to make sure, we've got to do our due diligence, if you like, on that, and make sure that we're ruling the right things in or out according to the actual details of what's in front of us. But that's where we're at with that. Hopefully the panels will come imminently, and Stu will be able to beaver away further and continue with the panel replacement on this and get it starting to look more like a car and less like a pile of rust, which would be a nice place to be. So a bit of jig work, bit of pulling work, dozer work, not something you see here very often. Comes out once, I don't know, probably once every year we pull the dozer out for a job. So it's the first time, I bet it's the first time anybody will have seen this on an uncut video actually. Moving on from that, we're on to the Aston project, where Matt, having dropped off the E-Type for a bit, is now on to the Aston, and he's doing the sheet metal repair on this. He's actually spun the car around from how it was last week. He's completed the repair work on the inner A-post and the B-post inner and outer, and the outer A-post on that side of the car. The sections that are still screwed on, you'll notice there's some areas that are either just tacked or are screwed on. They're screwed on or tacked for a reason, in that they're going to be bits that have to be removed to enable the body tub to be put onto its new chassis. Bear in mind, again, for those coming into this video anew, the whole lower part of this car will be removed. We're using basically from the bottom of the A pillars up, from the bottom of the B pillars up, and from the bottom of what would be the C pillar up. But the lower part of the structure has been completely changed, the bulkhead is being radically modified, the entirety of the front end is being changed, albeit with a new inner front panel, so that the periphery of the car and the actual aluminium bodywork is still the same. All of the outer panel work on the car will basically be standard, with a few little tweaks, like the rear valance will be changed, the front valance will be changed, and the sill trims will probably be changed as well. But all of the fundamental lines of the car will be standard, because they're actually very, very nice. As I say, the rear valance was what really let these cars down. It's appalling. It looks like somebody's attached a piece of Tupperware to the back of the car. So that's being changed, but the main lines of the car will be standard. But underneath will be a complete new chassis, and we'll be running on Corvette, running on more or less current spec, not quite current spec. Basically Corvette C7 uprights and wishbones, Corvette C7 front uprights, Corvette C6 rear uprights, because the C7 uprights are too big for the wheels. We want to stay within 17-inch wheels, and you can't get a C7 rear upright inside a 17-inch wheel. It has to have an 18, so we're using C6 rear uprights, which will go inside a 17-inch wheel, and fundamentally are more or less from the point of view of fitting into our suspension design, are basically the same as C7. And then we're using stock C7 Corvette wishbones all around, which are a combination of hollow cast aluminium and solid cast aluminium wishbones, which are very, very nice pieces. Very big, really nice sized bushings, take the load really, really well. They're very, very well developed parts, and they're all stock General Motors off-the-shelf parts, which have now arrived and are all now here. So we've been able to do some measurements and some checking of the CAD there. There's a few revisions still to be done in CAD, and then we can get all the parts off for laser cutting at Mac Industries up there. We'll be doing all the laser cutting for the parts on this. And yeah, we're very, very excited to get to that stage. We're just a little bit away still on the CAD design. There's a couple more tweaks. We've identified a couple of areas where we needed to just modify the design a bit, but I'll let George take you through all that in a bit. But yeah, really, really happy with how things are coming along. Matt's blitzing through the rot repair on this. I think by earlier part of next week, he should be pretty much there with the rot repair on this. And then we really are going to be into the start of chassis fabrication. I think we'll start with making the fixtures up so we can fabricate the front and rear chassis legs, the chassis rails if you like, get all the steel cut to length for the centre sections, and probably start getting the chassis tacked up, I think, at that point, which is exciting times. I'm just looking forward to seeing the little fast forward to being able to attach the body tub onto the chassis and start the undefined areas. Like the CAD drawings only extend as far as the suspension mountings at the moment. We've still got to extend the rails front and rear to actually pick up the bodywork, but we can't really do that from CAD because the front and rear bodywork on this car isn't accurately positioned enough due to damage to enable us to actually pick that up in CAD. If we scan this and then just replicate it in CAD, we'll fix the front panel on a wonky angle, because it already is on a wonky angle. So basically the bodywork extremities attachment will need to be done on the jig using a tape measure the old-fashioned way, rather than using a scanner and replicating things, because, as I say, what we'll replicate will be wrong. So yeah, I think that's pretty much where we're at on the Aston. Yeah, Matt's blitzing through rock repair, all going well. On other work, they're not on the bench anymore, I don't think. I'm just looking over there. No, but Stu has also been busy alongside doing his E9 work. Stu's also been busy with the manifolds for Churchill, which I finished doing the final TIG welds on the other day, purging and TIG welding those. Then Stu made the manifolds. I've just finished welding them. Then Stu's making up the brackets for the heat shields, which is done. They're all fully welded on, and he's now just working on the heat shield. But I think there was a change of plan on the heat shield front, because the original Jag heat shield we weren't very happy with the way it kind of fitted and the way it looked. So I think that's been revised, and I'm not quite sure whether there's a final decision on the revision of that heat shield yet. So I think that's where the manifold decisions are at. But the manifolds themselves are all made, the brackets are there for the heat shields, and I think they're basically ready to go off for a ceramic coating as soon as the final decision on the heat shield's made. So that's where we're at on everything in here, I think, for the moment. So I think at that point I'm going to hand over to Mark and let him take you through what's going on in the body shop, chiefly with the XJ Coupe, which is moving forward apace.
All right, welcome back to another week. Been soldiering on with the XJC, as you can see. Wings here now are in high build primer, but all the rest of the panels, I've got the doors, the bonnets in high build, boot lids in high build. These panels we're doing at the minute are like the back rear valance, the fuel tank covers, what go underneath the side valance. We've just got them into polyester. Same with like the rear valance. The front valance is somewhere lost in here. I can't remember where it is. It'll turn up later. So yeah, so we're just getting, these are all masked up the wings because we're going to get onto Raptor soon. Just waiting for confirmation on if it's going to be black Raptor, body colour. I don't think the colour's been decided yet. So they're masked up, ready to rip. So we'll go to the car now. We'll go and look at the car. We'll go and look at the car. I've just got to remember what we've done. Just turn the lights on. Turn this one on so Jamie don't trip over. All right, so yesterday, I've got this into high build primer now. There's four coats of high build on this now. We had a little issue with the roof still on one of the corners, but hopefully we've got it now. There's just a little flat spot on it. So hopefully this high build sorted it out. So, but we're going to keep the car in here now. We've got to demask it all, get it back on the rotisserie, get the spit ends on. I think Gaz is going to direct inside. That's a polyurethane paint, direct to metal, but with epoxied inside. It's all keyed up. Sealer work's been done. Have you seen footage of sealer work? Yeah, so Jamie's done he's nodding. He's very quiet today. So yeah, we've done the underside sealer work. You'll see in a montage. Sealer work's been done inside. So like I say, Gaz is just going to go ahead now. Black polyurethane direct inside, boot lid. Then we'll let that cure for a day. And yeah, it goes off wild quick, the direct. With the turbo accelerator in 2 hours, it's fully cured. So yeah, we'll get it back over, mask it all up. So it's just the underside. Get the Raptor done on that. And then we'll block this then. So everywhere else is already done, so it can stay on the trolley then, back in here, spit ends off, and hopefully while on the way to paint. So that's all I'm gonna say this week. Let you all crack on whatever you're doing. Sunday, feet up, having a few beers. See you later.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. And I think with no further ado, I will hand over to Cal in the assembly shop and let him take you through what's going on in there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nat. And you find me in front of a bewildering array of billet parts, all of which are for the Allegro. They probably only represent a relatively small number of the overall bespoke parts for the car, but still pretty impressive layout. So these are all in the accents colour, which is the same on both cars, which is basically gunmetal grey on the interior. So we've got speaker grills, these are the fronts, these are the rears. There's these little sort of machined ashtray pieces. I think 2 of those go in the gear shifter surround, 2 of them go in the handbrake surround. The instrument bezels, the actual binnacle itself is machined. That's being machined now, but that's going to be black anodized, so you then got the graphite standing out against that black. There's these very, very nicely machined door handle sections that Jonathan at PBE CNC machined for us, which I'm extremely happy with. I think this one, yeah, this one's actually got the window buttons in, so you've got an up and down, and then a little two-way rotary switch which switches the control between driver and passenger window. So on the passenger side one, there's just an up and down, but the driver has the option to switch their window controls to controlling the passenger side window. And then these actually, I've got the leathered 3D prints here which form the back part of the armrest on the door. So essentially when it all goes together, that's how the overall finished handle looks. And then these inlays here are attached with magnets, so they're made in mild steel. There are magnets recessed in here, so you put the bolts in to bolt it all together, and then that just snaps in over the top with magnets and covers all the bolts, so there's no visible fasteners at all. Very nice. And then these are the pieces that are in the lower central part of the dash. So in here there'll be a little Motec display which gives you all your additional engine data, and then the Audison volume control for the audio system sits in there. And then these, as you probably can guess, are the frames for the steering wheels. So as we probably mentioned, we are doing square steering wheels as per the original Allegro. I think this is the final piece of the puzzle on those, so Richard will show you some of the bits he's started upholstering for those in a bit. We've routed out the wooden rims that form the front and back of that. They need bonding on. Richard's just doing some prep work on those, and then he'll be able to finish these off and leather them. So that is also something I'm very much looking forward to seeing. And on the subject of leathering, I'm going to just come around here a sec, and this is ready to go to Rich now. So this is the main dash for one of the two cars. It's going to be the brownie coloured car, which is sectional 3D prints. We've just finished off this forward section here, which is a separate capping piece, which will be clamped in place by the demist vents. So this is a prototype Luke's just done. That's one of the things he's been on with this week, actually modelling these. The final version of that will now be printed in a black carbon reinforced nylon material. And these sort of obviously are demist vents, but they also form the function of sandwiching this trim panel onto the main section of dash underneath, and then the tweeters will sit in the side here. So yeah, that's going to be over to Richard to leather very shortly. So yeah, the interior is really going to start to come together. And actually, just going back to these parts, this bit here is the sort of visible grille part of the demist vent. So that piece I just showed you that will be a 3D print in black. We'll have that just bonded into the top as a finishing piece for that cosmetically. And then I've got a few other bits that just arrived today. So on the MGB that's down in the den, it's got a electrical isolator on it, and we wanted a little bit more clearance. The standard key has a big leg on it, which was a bit awkward with the trim panels we're putting in, and then we thought we might as well go the whole hog and just do a customized key. So we have these very cool little The Den logoed isolator keys, which we've had 3D printed by Pro Total. They just need the little brass pins pressing in now, and they will be done. And then also in the same box, some parts for the Interceptor. So we did the design work many episodes ago on these. They all relate to, I think, HVAC system. Actually, no, one of them would be engine intake. In fact, this. So this sits at the side of the lower grille in the valance and ducts the air intake there, round through the inner wing here, and then there's a duct on the other side of here that goes to the air filter box for the engine. And then this one is on the opposite side of the car. Intakes from the area at the side of the radiator. So if you imagine the radiators here, this is the front of the car, this is the kind of inner wing, ducts it through there and up, and this is above the wheel arch here, and that ducts back to the intake to the blower fan for the HVAC system. So we're starting to populate parts for that, and actually if you follow me through here, we'll carry on Interceptor related. I feel like I need my Roundstone coffee in hand here, but actually it's quite nice to gesticulate without it. So lights on the Interceptor are the main thing at the minute. So headlights are now in, and we're just refurbishing the rear lights. So we're able to get some of the parts for the rear lights new. The lenses, I believe, but the back housings have had to be bead blasted, and then we're just in the process of sorting out the little reflectors that sit within them, which we've discovered are the same as, I think, American spec Series 3 E-Type. So what we're trying to do is persuade whoever makes the newly available rear light units for Series 3 E-Types actually give us just the reflector parts themselves, which at the moment we're drawing a bit of a blank on, but we shall see on that. Allegro, so straight away I can see something Luke's been on with this week, which is the prototype for the final bit of HVAC ducting. So this is the piece that goes onto the Integra HVAC unit and ducts the air to the face vents and to the demist vents. There's a prototype one on there now. He's really happy with the fit on that. He's made a couple of little changes to the size of the ducts actually, because we decided they were too small and they might be a bit restrictive. So we've done bigger ducts on the final one. But they're ready to be printed for the final time now, which is all leading up to essentially getting all the dash ins. Because when Richard's done the upholstery of that dash, which I just showed you, the central piece has already been upholstered. We've got to do some wiring connections up behind the dash there, get that final duct unit in there, and then that can all go in, ducts can be connected up, everything being buttoned up, and obviously the steering wheel I've just showed you in progress. I think another thing Luke's been on with at the minute is the back housing on the steering wheel. So there's a horn push on the front, which I think you'll see Rich working on in a minute. On the back, there's a piece that just basically sits between the column shroud and the wheel itself. And it also covers the wiring. It goes from the horn push button. So Luke's just on the final design of that in a minute. And the wiring's also progressing nicely. I think they've just about finished the PDM harness and possibly the rear harness actually on the orange Allegro, but certainly the wiring's moving forward nicely on that. So that is kind of where we're at with the Allegros. Gibbo's just patterning up for the glass. We talked about that was an upcoming job previously, but we're just patterning plywood templates for the glass on Churchill so we can get them away to get the glass done, because really we're only copper plating of the frames and production of that glass away from being able to actually get the glass in situ. And another thing on this, George has been on with the radiator. So I mentioned last week that when we did all the mock-up build, we had a relatively small cooling fan on there because space is very tight between the pulleys on the front of the engine and that fan. But I wanted to revisit it, which is why we still had the mock-up radiator in it, and just see if there was a bigger option, because I want to try and get the biggest fan I possibly can in there. So George has been just trialling, looking at some of the SPAL listings for fans and seeing whether we can fit a bigger one in. And it's kind of more complicated than it might seem, because it's not just the size of the radiator it fits into. It's actually got to be threaded into that space, which adds further complication to it. So it's trying to fathom out whether the biggest fan that will fit on the radiator will actually be able to be threaded into place, because you can't fit it with it on the radiator, because to do that you have to tilt the radiator back towards the engine to get it out with the condenser on the front of it, and the deeper the fan is, the less you can tilt it back. So it's a bit of a juggling act on that, but I think we're homing in on the best solution for that as well. So that's that. George has been on with the design of the HVAC system for Project Geneva, the E-Type that's through there. And that's one of the main big pieces of design remaining on that car. And we've been trying to juggle what order and what priority to give to different components, because they all fight for the same space. And essentially we're prioritising the engine initially. So we've got the carbon plenums, they feed down to an air filter box each side. So we know that that's going to sit in that space. And now we've got to the point of knowing where all that sits. We know what space we've got remaining to fathom out the HVAC system. And we want to have aircon and a heat matrix, but I want to have a flapper that will direct the air between either one or the other. A lot of the systems, it blows through both all the time, and just a water valve turns off the water feed to the heater matrix. But it does mean the temperature control is very slow, and you do get residual heat in the heater matrix, which lowers the efficiency of the cooling when you want aircon. So it's nice to have a flapper to direct air between the two, so when you're on full aircon it's not going through the heat matrix at all. And also we want electronic air direction control. Now that bit's relatively easy. We're using electronic butterfly valves on all of the feeds to the different vents. So there'll be 2 face vents, no, 4 face vents actually, 2 demist vents and the feet vents. And we'll have butterfly valves on all of those. So eventually the PDM control will mean that you can select face, feet, demist and any combination of the two, and it's just a case of those valves opening and shutting. But the bit George has been working on is where the AC evaporator is going to go, where the blower fans are going to go, and they're actually going to be mounted in the passenger footwell, because the footwell's pretty deep and the seats we've got are a long way back, so there is enough space even for someone tall like me to sit in there, and there's enough space in front to have a false floor and the evaporator and fan there, and that will blow straight up through a slightly revised version of the bulkhead into a unit that then controls a servo motor operated flapper that directs air either directly into the original air ducting behind the dash, or via the heater matrix, and depending on where that flapper is, any combination of the two. So yeah, that is looking pretty good. It's a bit of a packaging packaging nightmare, but once we've got that done, that's the last bit of the stressful packaging jobs on that car out of the way, and we can have a clear path forward with it. So that's exciting. And then I think the other thing Luke's been on, other than these various bits and bobs like the HVAC ducts, the demist vents, he's been revisiting the dash design on the XJ Coupe Project Portofino. So bit of back and forth with the customer again. He was over the other day. We're getting extremely close to a layout we're happy with. It's just details now. And one of the things on the latest iteration, we're pretty happy with the console. We'd gone back to the dash fascia being flat after initially having like a little stepped central section in it. Now we're revisiting having that stepped again, and two options, one with angled ends on the step, one with the vertical ends on the step. Just trying to separate out that area with the instruments and switches on the dash, because with no step there, it does look like quite a big flat expanse. We're trying to do a little bit of a nod to the E-Type, the way it had that section with the switches and gauges as a separate, like vinyled, recessed panel. Not going as far as it being vinyled and recessed, but a slight step to suggest that. So it's got a slight recess, but it's still got the same finish as the rest of the dash. So I think we've just uploaded to the client the latest renders with a few options on that, and I would imagine we're going to be very close to the final choices on that now. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that take shape as well. And on that note, let's shoot down the den and see what's going on down there, because I know it's pretty busy down there.
Hello and welcome to the den. And no, I'm not Callum, I'm Nick. Cal's not here, so I'm doing it this week. And yes, we are very busy, which is great. So we're actually starting outside because the workshop's quite full. So 124 Mercedes. This is very close to being finished for what we're doing at the moment. Obviously you've seen the interior, what's going on with that. Richard's finishing putting some of the interior in that in the coming days. We've got a new selector stick for that, which is super cool, which we will share another time, but that's so cool. Very excited about that. We've had exhaust done on the back. We couldn't buy a suitable back box that was of any kind of half decent quality, so we had our friends at Dyno Days, Rich at Dyno Days, very kindly fabricated a new exhaust for us, and the customer supplied a really super cool period Lorenzo tailpipe, so it looks absolutely awesome, and the Lorenzo tailpipe matches the period Lorenzo wheels as well, so super cool with that. Once it's back together, we've mounted the air ride control unit into the ashtray, which you'd have seen on previous videos, so we can just set up the air suspension on that. It's a little bit too low at the moment, a little bit scrapey occasionally, so we'll set that up when that's all finished. So we'll come into the workshop and work. Wow, what can we say? R32 GTR, E30 Evo 2. I mean, it's kind of like any petrol head's dream, isn't it? Ultimate two-car garage, perhaps? I'd say so. So Skyline you'll have seen, that is all but finished now. We're sending it for an MOT early next week, and the customer's coming back for that. So we had AP Detailing, they came to clean the underside of this. So the previous owner had the underside of the car kind of semi-restored, painted, but it hadn't been treated. So we've just gone over, cleaned it all thoroughly, and applied some Dynax sort of anti-corrosion wax underneath that, just to protect everything, keep it nice, because it is really good under there. But we just want to keep it that way and not very worried about corrosion and road salt and grit and dirt and stuff like that. The other little job we did, it had little boost gauge on the A pillar, which is sort of quite a period thing. Customer didn't like it, looks a bit out of place. The rest of the car looks quite mature, if that makes sense, without sounding like a bit of a a knob about it. So we've got rid of the gauge and the gauge pod off the A-pillar, and then Richard filled the holes in the A-pillar, and then we just retrimmed them with some matching black vinyl, and we've done both pillars so they're the same. Looks really good, and to be honest, unless you knew it had been done, you'd never know it had been done. So we finished off that as well, and we've fitted a sports cat to it because it had a decap pipe, so we've got a sports cat on ready for the MOT. So yeah, that's the Skyline. This thing, I mean seriously, this thing, I don't know of any, I can't think of a period car which I think is so desirable as this thing. I mean, it's just stunning. This one in particular is, I mean, it's box fresh. The customer he's had it for a long time, and he's done an awful lot of work on it, and it shows. The thing is immaculate. It needs nothing. So we've done a mechanical inspection on this. We're looking after it sort of in the long term. So we've done the inspection. There is nothing to say about it other than it's perfect, basically. So we are storing this for the customer for the short term, and then we'll be having it back in a few weeks, couple of months' time to enjoy. But yeah, super cool thing. And we will be doing a quick driving video in this at some point in the future, but not just yet. But yeah, what a thing. I mean, absolute dream car as far as I'm concerned. Right then, in the detailing bay here, so this will be the first for viewers. We've got this SL500, not an ML500, an SL500. So this is coming for interior work. So Richard's upstairs beavering away interior, so he'll be able to fill you in on all the details on the interior. Super cool car. And this was it was a Danny Dyer film, and the name of the film escapes me. I'm wondering if Jamie can shout.
The Business.
The Business, of course it is. And in Spain in the 80s, all the gangsters with their Sergio Tacchini tracksuits and all that, driving around in one of those. Very cool car, really good condition as well. So that's a very cool thing. Vader, I'm just going to walk past that for a second. Lupo over here. Really cool little Lupo. Still can't quite get over how small it actually is. It's ridiculously small, but very cool. So this has got a 1.8 turbo conversion. The owner's had it for a while. He's run around in it for quite a long time, quite successfully. A couple of things need sorting out. It's been stood for a little while. He's not been able to get on to sorting those out, so we're doing those for him. We've been doing our inspection. There's a couple of little things we need to do on it just to be able to finish the inspection. But really cool little car. It's all there, it's all together. It needs a little bit of love here and there, but it's basically really good. So that is the Lupo. Not really much else to say on that, if I'm honest with you. Quattro is progressing. Most notably, sort of visual progress, we've got new front brakes on that Jamie will go to in a second. Big R8 calipers, 8-pot calipers on that with some AP discs. So that will stop and a tuppence, I'm hoping, when that's finished. Fiat Barchetta, so Richard will be updating on the seats because we're doing heated seats. Luke, hello Luke, is wiring in the heated seats. So we've got little control modules for those, and we're going to do some buttons mounted in the centre console cubby hole. So we do a little 3D printed section with those in. The customer's got a little garage door opener, so we can just incorporate that into the top as well. So those switches will be out of the way slightly. But also, because this car is so original, original owner from new, 73,000 miles, absolutely, I mean, it's a museum piece. We don't want to start drilling holes in bits of trim in random places. So being able to do the 3D printed section in the cubby hole in the centre console basically means we're not permanently damaging the car. It's non-invasive, which is quite cool. So Mark III Golf VR6, customer came in this week, so we had a long chat about the kind of direction with the Golf. So there's loads of cool stuff happening with this. I'm genuinely really excited because this is such a cool thing. This is only done 44,000 miles from new. It's incredibly original, including having the original Volkswagen exhaust on it still from new. It is unfortunately starting to get a bit rusty. So we're looking to change it and preserve it. So what we're doing on this, we are looking to change some of the interior. So the customer's found some original Recaro seats, which Jamie will do a little B-roll to. Super cool things, really nice. We're going to change those. We're going to put a bit more sound deadening, soundproofing in it. We're going to do a fairly straightforward audio install in this as well. We're going to tidy up some of the bits in the engine bay. We're probably going to look at clear Cerakoting the inner manifold and the cam cover, just to lift them and brighten them up. But to be honest, the whole thing is so good, it's in such good condition, we don't really want to do too much, because it's just a kind of nice, almost like a nice piece of history. The customer doesn't want to be thrashing around in it 400 miles an hour. It's just a super cool car. We're going to be detailing it as well. It doesn't really appear that it's ever had a proper clean or machine polish or anything like that, so we're going to be detailing it. Super cool thing. Stay tuned for updates on this, because it is a cool thing and it's going to be a super cool project. MGB's coming along really well. We've got the gearbox sorted and we've got all the clutch release system sorted, so we're going to a concentric release bearing on this, which is cool. So we've got all the pipes from ATEC to be able to make those up, get all that back in, and then Richard can progress with the interior. New to the workshop, Evo 9 estate that some idiot bought semi-unseen. So my advice, don't buy a car semi-unseen like an idiot. Alpha's progressing, not really too much to say on that. Vader, let's talk about Vader. You'll know this car. If you've watched these videos before, you'll know this car. So this car recently sold at auction to a new owner, and they wanted us to give it a quick check over. So we've done a quick engine oil change, brake fluid change, new rear tyres, because funnily enough, the rear tyres on this won't last very long, given it's got 285 horsepower and weighs about 8 grams. So all is fine with the car. I mean, it's still basically like new. Our detailer, Anthony, who was here the other day, just kindly gave it a quick once over. It looks, I mean, the paint is amazing. It is fully PPF'd, everything's PPF'd on the car, but it's super clean. I love this thing. It's dark, it's nasty, it's evil, and we're going to do a little driving video in that. So we'll do a little driving video now. This is Vader. I can't hear myself talk or think, so my apologies if you can't really hear anything. This is basically, for all intents and purposes, a race car with a fully sequential mechanical box by Quaife, Vauxhall red top, very short gears, very short final drive. It is an absolute assault on your senses. feel absolutely everything that's going on in this thing. The throttle response is on and off. It's got a full-on paddle clutch in it. Everything is black. Everything is trying to hurt you all the time. I love it. I love it. My right arm hurts because that gear stick does take quite a push. It's not really a commuter car, I'll be honest with you. Not unless you're already deaf. Because if you use this as a daily, you will go deaf. I also apologise for having to hold the mic in my hand, but I'm kind of thinking you probably won't hear me otherwise. Bear with. You need to have your wits about you when you're driving this thing, for sure. But what a machine. I mean, fair play to Retropower, because this thing is absolutely awesome. You've probably seen Johnny Smith, our good friend Johnny Smith did a film on this a while back, in the pouring rain. How on earth he drove this in the rain, I do not know. We're lucky, this is a lovely early spring day and it's sunny. But my God, what a machine. That is naughty. Can't even get reverse. There it is. Wow, what a thing. What a thing. And that's what it's like to drive. Absolutely awesome. Love it. I don't really know what else to say about this. The customer's coming to pick it up this morning. I'm kind of sorry it's not here longer, to be honest, just to look at, because it's a super cool thing to look at. And it is an awesome build by Retropower, with loads of cool trick bits on it, loads of little bespoke touches, and yeah, I love this car really. And I think that is about it in the workshop here. So we're going to go to Richard upstairs, who's going to talk to you about his upholstery stuff.
How's it, everybody? Good to be back. We missed a week, but that's okay. Lots happened. So first, I need to correct myself, because I'm pretty sure I said we've got a Mercedes Pagoda in, and unless you squint your eyes really tightly, it's not going to look like a Pagoda at all, because it's a ML500. So anyways, that car came in, and straight off the bat, well, like you see all over around me, I've got lots of parts. It's a beautiful color leather. This is called burnt orange, and I've started stripping everything. So this is like a reverse engineering jobby with slash a little bit of patterns, because we're going from tuck and roll, the traditional fluted design on the Mercedes, to some nice diamonds. Now, some of you might remember, here's the seat, if Jamie can get that in. I just wanted to check this. My only concern was, because these seats are quite buckety, it doesn't look like it, but it actually is. I was worried that when we're doing the defined diamonds, I was worried that they would squish against each other, but they absolutely nothing. They're perfect. So we're going to go for it. So we can't wait for this to get. We're going to keep the piping on this. We're not going to go modern top stitching. And the reason why we've opted for piping, because piping's not our favorite. It's not a secret, but on this tuck and roll and this type of design, it's quite a thick. That's a 1/2-inch foam, and then with your leather and your backing, doing top stitch over this, you'll have top stitch. Because we'll be doing double needle, if we add, it would be on thin bits there and very thick bits there, and then the discrepancies, you can never get them looking nice. It always looks like a step thing. It looks like it wasn't done correctly. So we're going to stick with the piping, keep it clean. It's going to look absolutely amazing. So that's in the background. The way I achieve those diamonds is, you guys, Jamie's got some. There's another piece over there, which Jamie will get in. James's famous JD diamonds on his router, so I'm very excited to use them and not sit here and cut with a scissor or my blade a million diamonds and then stick them on, and then they won't be as accurate as that. So thank you, James. They look amazing. I can't wait to start stitching them up. probably next week I'll start doing some of the diamond panels. So yeah, that's the ML Mercedes, well on its way. You guys will see how this all unfolds in the next coming weeks. So we're doing some door cards. We're changing the design a little bit in the door card, but I think I won't go into that now because we've got to work out how we're going to do it. But we're going to transfer some of the diamonds onto the door card just to keep the design flowing. So that looks really cool. This will be stripped. Jamie going to get some nice shots. One of these are in the car already, so you can start seeing the contrast, the color of the new interior versus the exterior of the car. It looks really nice. Also, what we've got here, what we're all very excited about, is some Allegro steering wheels. And we've done our first little leather deboss, which came out absolutely stunning. So we got the blue one and the brown one, and then Carl just brought, literally today, he brought me the inners because the anodizing is done now. On the spokes, I've prepped the plywood. There's a lot of sanding and stuff involved. I now just got to make sure it drops in easy. We'll bond that, and then I can start trimming the wheels. So that got done. I just got to give a quick shout out to Rob at UK Height. They look absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much, Rob. So if anybody wants some embossing, debossing done, Rob at UK Height, he can sort you out. So yeah, very excited about that. So we're going to do those and you guys will see. So yes, just a couple of, that's like a little center bit of the ML, just to show you this gorgeous color. Very beautiful. So very excited. What else did we do? We made some diamonds this week, Jamie. We did. I stripped a whole lot of leather seats. Didn't really do a lot of sewing because there's only bits. Then I played with the Allegro steering wheels, and I'm waiting on the MGB. I'm just waiting for them to finish the gearbox work because then they'll know where the transmission tunnel is going to be modified. Then we can start doing carpets and all that. And then there were some bits and bobs. I did some A-pillars for the Nissan GTR, the Skyline GTR that's downstairs. So that was just a quick little job in and out. We've got the Fiat downstairs, which Luke, I think, is busy doing the heated seat wiring at the moment. And Jamie will get some shots. There's black seats. The customer, we're going to keep the original seats. I'm going to carefully take those leathers off to a point, get the heater pads in there, and then close them up, and you won't see anything. It won't look like it's been modified. And then Luke and Nick came up with some cool ideas to hide the switches, because it's quite modern switches. We went for a 3-stage heated seat that then, as soon as you turn the ignition off, it defaults to the off position again. So a heater pad doesn't stay on because we don't want to be burning car seats and stuff. So they've managed to get that in the center console. We'll be printing a little pod where the buttons goes in, but it will be able to close with the lid, all discreet. You won't know when you look at the car. And that's what we want, adding some modern touches, but not messing with the nice original aesthetics of the car. So, and I think, Jamie, that is it for me. So yeah, just busy, but it was good seeing you guys. I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Rich. That's all the upholstery stuff. So that's it for this week from us. Don't forget, at the Retropower website, you can buy merchandise, both Retropower and the Den merchandise. So get yourself some Den merch. And we have started doing a podcast, not quite as regularly as we want to yet, but we're doing the podcast. So go and check that out. That is on the normal podcast people, Spotify, wherever else, and it's on this YouTube channel as well. And that's it, and we'll see you next time.